Hey friends, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about the dark karma of the light worker. If that sounds intriguing, stay tuned. So what do I mean firstly by light worker? Well, probably if you're watching this, you're a light worker. I don't like that term very much, but we'll go into that in this talk. It's not all about light. But the light worker essentially is someone who works on themselves and who makes an effort to ascend, makes an effort to grow, and makes an effort to, in their way, do good. Okay, there's a very blunt definition. Now, it's useful to consider what kinds of light worker there might be, and just for the purposes of this, I will outline 3 tribes of light worker, and one of them I will deal with more specifically. So as I talk, you can just feel it in your heart where you resonate with, what tribe of light worker, even the whole concept of light worker, and what I say further, let it settle into your heart and feel if it's true for you, if it evokes some resonance or not. Okay, so let's just say that one of the groups of light workers might be those we call the crystal children, and they are ones I'd say who are the most newest in terms of visiting and being here on this planet. They are the ones who've come in recently because of the work done by other light workers previously and because of the earth changes. Now you have so-called crystal children, and these are largely souls who have not spent much time on earth at all, perhaps if any, but they have extensive knowledge of the higher realms, and they can come in because the veil is thinning now with these transitions that we're undergoing, and because of work done by previous light workers of the other tribes. Okay, I won't spend too much time with this group. You'll know you're part of this group if you're relatively young, and you have this sort of fairy energy. It is a crystal kind of energy, and you find perhaps the vibration of this plane very difficult. All light workers will do something, but this tribe of light workers, the crystal child, more often has allergies, difficulty assimilating, like digesting this planet, and the weak point of this tribe is to hark back to their home dimension, which is so much more familiar, and then to almost like isolate themselves. Now we all would do, I think all tribes of light workers do this, myself included, but just park that for a moment. There's crystal children, not all plain sailing for them, they have their own challenges. Okay, that's group number 1, we could say. Another group of light workers we could say is the what I would term as earth souls. This is a family of souls birthed more or less at a similar time and who have spent most of their evolution on earth. So these tribes I'm talking about that have a lot to do with soul age and almost like birth wave, which wave of creation were you birthed from, and your experience where you've grown up, in other words. So now the earth souls are also awakening, and of course they come in right from Cro-Magnon and Homo erectus, Neanderthal, and to Homo sapiens. So there's been a very long journey from that second dimensional animal aspect, second density being animal, first density being mineral, second density animal, third density is the ego consciousness of what modern humanity has, the sense of I, me, Russell, John, whoever. Now they've come all through that long journey from second to third density, and now those who are kind of leading the way are also ascending, or also awakening in their way. So you'll know one of these, or you'll have a sense. You never know exactly, But if you have a sense of that you're quite familiar with this planet, you have a love for it, you have a loyalty to it, you don't necessarily feel that you come from another star system, although you might be curious about that. I also won't deal with this group too much because the dark side I want to talk about mainly concerns the last group, which I will deal with. So the Earth Souls, you guys are I say you guys because I don't resonate myself with that, although who knows in the end which soul group one is, okay? And we've probably been amongst different groups all the time, but there's essentially like a home frequency there, and that you would be with. So those Earth Souls are awakening and being part of the new Earth. Okay, so now we come to the third group of the Lightworker. Now this is a group I think a lot of you will relate to, and you'll know you're in this group if you have a longing for off-planet energies, higher dimensions and frequencies, sometimes a sense of being an alien on the planet, perhaps a confusing sense that you've lived many lifetimes here, but yet you feel like a newbie, or like you don't quite get how things work, or it seems quite strange here, but yet you've lived many lifetimes here. You also know you're in this group if you perhaps have a sense of being a victim in recent lives. So if you resonate strongly with, for instance, the witch trials and various persecutions that have happened, especially over the past 2,000 years, it could be that you're in this group, and I would maybe classify myself here. That's why I'm so interested in it. Okay, so I will elaborate further on the history of this group. And why am I doing this? Because this is for our evolution. This might help you if you're feeling stuck and wondering what you're doing here. What's the whole plan? So this group, who's now Lightworkers, who are probably the most grounded and far advanced Lightworkers, but you don't feel it because in this life and others you perhaps have had to take a back seat. You're playing a secondary role. You're confused about what you know. You have been in a lot of victim type situations. You feel powerless. You feel afraid of using your own power. You might be financially disempowered and other ways disempowered. The idea of having been a victim is quite strong in your consciousness. Your mistrust of your own spirituality might be quite strong, although you yearn for a spirituality and you have the feeling that you know stuff that other people don't know, but you're not sure of the value and the worth of what you know because it has led to sometimes poor outcomes in the past. Like if you preached the gospel of freedom, love, unity a few hundred years ago, you could have ended up in a bad situation. So that's why now you have this idea to just shut up and try and get by. Now a lot of us will. There's a lot of work on YouTube and online about these people, and we're trying to reconnect with that power. But there is, I think this is why I want to talk about it, because if we're only connecting with those lifetimes when we were a victim, we are never going to gain our power because we're not connecting with the times when we also played the other side of the game. So if you are at a point where you are ascending or becoming in the realm of enlightenment, if you're becoming enlightened, if you're becoming more enlightened, closer to union, closer to God, you will have gone through the light and the dark. This is why it's quite confusing, because this world is very polarized into light and dark, and you assume that you have to be the light, but to get to the light that I'm talking about, which is a third position, good, bad, and there's a third position of light. That's where we're aiming for, and they don't often teach you about this. This is the Christ consciousness, which is beyond the field of duality. Now you only get there by having been both sides, both poles of the duality. So if you were burnt as a witch in a previous life, it doesn't help too much to cast your identity as that victim, as the one who's righteous, and they, them, as the ones who oppressed you. Because if we take things further back, the boot was on the other foot, as it were. Okay, so let's go there. This is a long story. It will cut very, very short, relatively short. So this group, all groups will be interested in the story because it applies. The archetypal messages are the same and apply to everybody. But this group, listen, see if this rings any bells. Okay, go back. Oh, feel it in your heart first. Feel the heart in your heart, this story. Now let's go back millions of years to when this earth was yet very young. Life was still beginning. Dinosaurs, even before, just the first glimmers of plant life, then animal life developing. And into this world, this new paradise world, came the first spirit beings. These spirit beings were not yet physical, but they interacted with the physical. We could call them the devas of the trees and the animals. And they played in this garden as spirits interfacing with matter. They were as yet very young, newly hatched, a soul group newly emerged from the Creator, from oneness, still drenched in oneness, in innocence. And they played in this garden in innocence. All was one. Millions of years go by. Then one day, something happens that they've never seen before. Forces arrive that do not seem to fit in with this paradise. They seem to be dark. They seem to want to possess. They seem to want to take this planet or disrupt this nature. Now these angelic Davic beings, these new souls as they were, saw this and felt protective, and they wanted to protect the planet, their beloved creatures, the beloved planet, because they were very bonded, very one with the planet. So naturally what happened is they began to gather together and oppose this outside force. I cannot tell you who it was or when it was, but we can speculate that it's off-planet, a very ancient people or race that had it in the mind of conquest. So now these beings, who is us actually, who is this group, who is very young, sees this and say, no, this cannot happen. We need to do something to protect this realm. So in doing that, they made the first fall into duality, into us and them. You see, it was very innocently done and very nobly. We want to protect this environment, this experiment called Earth. So with that, we took a step into closer to physicality, began to get more form, and eventually took off and became incarnated again into other galactic realms where we battle this dark force. Do you like the story? Just feel if it's true. Just feel if it rings bells or not. The main point here is the development of duality and the dance of duality. Okay, so we became these early lightworkers or crusaders against that dark. Imagine now that more millions of years go by, thousands of years. We are off in space battling these dark forces, sometimes reincarnating as them back and forth. And there develops this struggle. And this didn't happen exactly, you won't find it evidence in this third density really. It's more like a fourth density. It's a more rarefied density. So it's physical, but tuned more to the fourth dimensional aspects of your astral level. So these battles happened a lot in a physical and semi-physical level, but a lot of mental and psychic wars. Okay, so imagine that happens for a long time. Eventually, these earth souls, well, not earth souls, but who began on Earth a long time ago, they've battled these dark forces for millennia. At a certain point, they grow weary of this battle. They observe that things are not resolving. There's no integration. They begin to long for integration. They begin to long also for the paradise that they lost. They remember Earth. And so they turn their attention again to Earth. And when they come back to Earth, they find that there are now creatures on it, humanoid creatures. This is now the Earth souls who are now coming in as young souls. But the original Lightworker souls are now have a few million years of development in different realms. They're ready for a maturity. They're ready to move beyond ego, but yet they are still ruled by ego. They see the young earth souls, the early forms of man, and it just falls naturally them to become interested in them and then to involve them in their conflict without knowing that they're doing it. They involve them in their conflict. They imprint upon the young earth souls this duality and the need to take sides. How do they do that? You can call it mental and psychic manipulation, also perhaps some genetic tweaking. And they gifted humans with mind, sapiens, Homo sapiens in other words. But in giving us mind, they also created fear. They gave the possibility of fear. So they came here with good intentions to find a place to rest, but they ended up interfering with what was happening. I use interfering lightly because it was all part of a plan, but it ended up sort of being interfering. But it was part of a plan, you'll see. After some more time goes by, these same original Lightworker souls begin to feel that what they've done, what they're doing is not in the best interest, is not of the highest intensity, and they want even more to connect with their souls, with their heart. You see, heart. They're very mental, very psychic, mental. So the plan then becomes, the plan has evolved, which the founders say, okay, we'll make a space available on Earth where you can incarnate. You guys have been zipping around the universe, the galaxy, for thousands of years. You can incarnate here on Earth and see if that will help you integrate the light and the dark. See if you can connect with your heart energy, because when they're zapping around the universe, having these battles, they're mental and psychic. There's no heart. So the quest has been for heart. And who knew that heart was really right down in the third density level of the physical animal human body. Okay. So these brave Lightworkers say, okay, we are tired of this battle now. We've seen that we haven't done right by Earth humans by manipulating them, so we want to come in and see if we can set that right, make amends as it were, and further our own evolution. So the plan was, you guys can come in and incarnate. So what they did is they made like a cordoned off area, not really cordoned off, but a certain part of Earth that was quite isolated. You can guess perhaps where this is. Talking about Atlantis. And in that time, the land masses looked different. The sea levels were lower, so there was more land in that mid-Atlantic area. So the story goes that there was this play set off for Lightworkers to incarnate into ordinary human bodies. Okay, so they did that in this semi-isolated area, because you can think of it as just islands, and the rest of humanity is early Homo sapiens. They don't really they're not seafaring, so you can keep it fairly, you can keep this experiment, this culture, fairly isolated. You don't want to interfere too much with the Earth humans, because the prime directive is non-interference now. But of course there will be interference. So as the story goes, Atlantis develops. These Lightworkers and other galactic souls are coming in, born into human Homo sapiens bodies, after to parents who are normal Earth humans. So you've got this mixing of very much older souls who began right on Earth as Devic characters, went off, fought in the universe, now coming back to see if they can find their heart center. Now what happens if you have got millions of years evolution behind you, and you're already a seasoned warrior using mental and psychic powers? Now you're coming into this sphere and you're born to ordinary Earth humans who have not yet had, who are much younger in development. So there's going to be some hierarchies that start to develop, because you come in, you have this intelligence, you have these weird psychic abilities. So what starts to happen? Duality. More polarization slowly starts to set in. So now you have a growing priesthood, the people who know stuff, they can psychic stuff, and then the ordinary humans. They look the same, more or less. Okay. So also, for these Lightworkers coming in, you come in with good intention. You want to find your heart center. You want to bring unity to yourself. You want to unite opposites. But now you come into this human body, this third density, which you've never explored before, really. You've never been in an animal body. Now what happens is you feel immediately claustrophobic, you feel locked in, you feel powerless. You cut off from a lot of your psychic powers, because high in fourth density, where you're used to, you can create much more easily. There's time works differently. You want something, you create it. Okay, here it's like slow, nothing happens, very sluggish. So what happens now? Fear. Now you experience fear and the loss of your power. So what do you do when that happens? You don't go further into your heart, you go into what you know, into your head. So that's what these Atlanteans did, which is us Atlanteans. Go into your head, try more and more to work with your mind. Even now, most of us working with our minds. The whole Earth is very mind-based, because it's the easiest place to work from. It gives you kind of quick results, like eating too much candy, and we forget the heart. So out of fear then, it was unplanned, out of fear then these Atlanteans begin to consolidate and cultivate power. And of course then they start disagreeing with each other about how this should happen. And as we know, the disagreements grew and grew, and a kind of power and technology grew. And this technology was quite based on mental powers, psychic powers. And as the story goes, this power was abused so much it affected the Earth, and the Earth couldn't take it anymore, shook us off like fleas. Atlantis collapsed. That was plus 9,500 BCs, plus minus the end of the last ice age. So that was quite a disaster, because it wasn't the original plan. We wanted to find a heart. We wanted to set right what we'd done on Earth before by manipulating humans, and we ended up manipulating them again. Because part of our dark side, I must pause here, because part of our dark side, like the dark karma of the Lightworker, is that in this Atlantean time, we behaved a little bit like Nazis. very obsessed with the superiority of species, trying to genetically manipulate, create even better species to incarnate into and to, once again, rule the world kind of idea. Can you relate to how if you're feeling powerless but you have some powers left, you will do what you can to encode those powers and form a religion around them? As you're losing more of your power, you make more and more religion, more and more structures. And you'll maybe start, if you're able to, you'll tinker with genetics to try and make a better human being. Okay? And you'll select certain characteristics which for you mean better human being. So that energy came back a little bit with the Nazis. If you can allow yourself to feel into your innate, if there's a deep down a feeling of, be honest now, a feeling of superiority. Have you ever felt superior? Have you ever felt above humans, beings, or certain groups of people, or races, or genders? Or so just allow yourself to connect with that, because it's key to face that shadow, just to acknowledge it, so you can become neutral about your position. We're aiming for beyond good. So in those days we were perpetrators. We perpetrated stuff on Earth humans who were younger than us, soul-wise and developmentally wise. And we did it not because we were horrible people, but we were scared. We were using the powers that we had to try and make life better. And we made decisions like, well, this will be good for you. So this control is going to be good for you. Okay, so you can see how that works in our life now. Even we treat our children, there's some level of control that a child needs, but at what point does that become controlling? So it's very easy to cross the boundary between care and control that limits unnecessarily. So basically everything that was done to us in the past, recent past, 2,000 years or so, we have done to others before. If you can get just that, and if you deny that, then perhaps it's slow in your future to experience the dark side of the journey. Because where we're going is beyond the good and evil. We want to ascend that duality. It's very exciting because it hasn't happened in the universe. As far as I understand it, and as far as the stories that are told, it hasn't happened, or hasn't happened very much before, that within one human being, within one lifetime, you can go from darkness and transcend duality and hold the space of both. I was dark and I was light, and I am that space that transcends, which in short is the I am presence. That's your Christ consciousness, the present I am. You only get to I am really when you've been through all of this, when you're tired of the duality, when you're tired of the fighting so much that you withdraw. So you can tune into your own presence now. And you might like to become aware of what is happening in your body, in your mind right now. Just noticing. A simple presence, Simple presence. And this presence is now beyond time, beyond duality. From here, it's okay. The up and the down, the good and the bad, it's okay. We're not involved. We witness from this third position just presence. So in this moment, what I experience is just a presence, a quietness, calmness. So all the talking I've been doing has given way to this, which is really what all this journey is about. When the talking and the doing gives way to just presence, just here, this room, light. Simple, very simple, huh? I'll begin to bring this to a close because I could sit here forever like this in this state. But maybe while we're here, simply to reflect on, and this I must say before we go, the story is not complete, because after our dark time in Atlantis, there was a time of quietness where we withdrew. And there was a debate amongst us about next steps. It was a huge trauma. There were some who decided, to hell with this, we're not game for this planet, this experiment, we're out of here, cheers. There was another group that says, hey, now we remember our original longing and love for this planet. We actually were here right at the beginning, when there were just plants and the first little dinosaurs and shit, and it was very nice. We are Earth souls too, in that sense. We are original Earth souls. We have an obligation to the planet and a love and a DNA in this planet. We are part of the history of the planet. Therefore, we cannot just leave. Our karma is not yet complete. We can't let it end with this disaster of Atlantis falling, because it was another attempt. We're getting closer, but that was not it. Well, we learned from that. Okay, so this is important. This is why I couldn't end the video there earlier. This has to be said. Okay, so this group, which is now a lot of you guys, if you're still listening to this, we thought, okay, we're game for another round. We're gonna try this again. We've learned a lot. We're dedicated. We'll do this again. We'll set this up differently. Okay, so what happens, that was 10,000, so just say 10,000 BC. Atlantis collapses. The remnants of Atlantis go to places like Göbekli Tepe, go to Egypt and build pyramids and sphinxes and things like that, as kind of try and hold that energy. But there was just very much of a remnant. They were not destined to last for long. The rest of us stayed in a soul state, abiding our time. Because humanity was pretty much wiped out at that stage. You got the Noah flood story. There wasn't much humanity going on. The idea was really to start again. So humanity started again. There wasn't much for us to come and do then, because it was basically Stone Age. And now we cooked up a plan. So this was a great plan. You'll think it's really clever. What we decided, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to come in again to humans, human bodies. Well, this time we are going to awaken in the human body, unite good and bad, set right everything that we've done on all the manipulation we've done before, which was part of the whole galactic struggles and light versus dark. We're gonna awaken from the inside, and we're gonna try and avoid the disaster of Atlantis, which means we have to find our heart. We have to find the heart, and we know now where the heart is. The heart is not in any kind of power structure or in our psychic development or mental development. The heart is closer in the body. We learned this now. And the way to get to this heart now, we have to be humbled. So we planned a new series of lives. In this series, we planned that we would now be powerless, relatively powerless, to learn the heart. So this explains why the last series of lives have been of victims, because we had to undergo what we had to put on others to get to the heart, to get to surrender, to get to love. There's another aspect to this plan, which is a master stroke. You might resonate with this. What we decided, okay, we're going to come back to Earth again. We're going to start a new round of incarnation. But we're going to set it up from the beginning right. So what the plan was, we're going to start incarnating at a certain time in smallish numbers, but enough to us to hold a frequency. Then we're going to arrange for someone to come in who will act as a beacon and install this new consciousness on Earth. We will catch that one, as it were, but this being will remember fully what we're here for and will embody that which we are aiming for. Okay, so this is like a combined effort now. As Lightworkers start to incarnate 2,000-3,000 years ago, creating that net, as it were, and then of course someone comes in who we know as Jesus, the Christ. Now, of course, there are other teachers, but he is in the Western world is the most memorable, and he directly modeled the consciousness that we were aiming for, which was the heart. So in the Jesus story, he teaches, and then he is crucified on the cross, and that is a beautiful symbolism, a beautiful enactment of the powerlessness in which Christ consciousness is born. Because in that moment, he is utterly in touch with the divine, but utterly human and utterly powerless. You nailed there, hey? That's about the most powerless you can be. But yet you can forgive, and yet you can be in touch with divine. In that moment, you're the most divine. So that the Christ image, that for me, that Christ on the cross, the crucifixion of that daily life, is emblematic of the energy of this new phase, of the light worker, of this particular group I'm talking about. So now you can check in with yourself if you resonate with that or not, and many you will resonate with the Christ story. Some will have a layering of rejection of it because of recent memory of being persecuted by church and stuff. But underneath, if you look into it, there might be a sense of recognition. So this is one way to recognize if you're this group, this long story I'm telling, if you're part of this particular way, part of this particular plan. Others would be Buddha, the Buddhist teaching. If you resonate with that, also the same vibe. But the Jesus story, particularly with the crucifixion, it models how we do it by surrendering and being in the physical body and not escaping that pain, not escaping, but being in the body. Okay, and in that moment of connecting deeply with the body and being powerless in it, we gain the power of direct connection. And for the first time in millennia, the first time in the universe really, is in this human, is in one body, is this animal body and the divine, complete divine. So if this resonates with you, then you're definitely part of this group. So what happened with this group now is that from that time, so now the 2,000 years we've incarnated, and it's often been in religious settings, often where we've felt further rejection because our ideas are just different. And we were always searching for that mysticism. We were mystics of it. Maybe you're a witch or alchemist or something like that. You had your own spiritual way, and this did not always meet with a kindly end. Or you political, you spoke up politically, you were ahead of your time politically, and also you were done away with. So we would all have had that So the message here is connect with the part of you that is the victim but also was the victimizer, and that way they neutralize each other out. So in that way you can free yourself of the karma of I'm a victim and they are the ones who are oppressing me. They is me. So this is going to be this is what I do now, because I tend to get very worked up by events in the news. So my practice now is to say, that is me. I am that. And absorb that. Okay, I can be a bit of a tyrant if I allow myself. I can feel it inside me. What I would do to ensure peace, I would get quite violent to make peace. Yes. So I'm violent. I have violence within me. Yes. Have I ever looked upon another as inferior to me? Yes, I can feel that. I've felt superior to others, some, and inferior to others. Same thing. Feeling inferior is the same as feeling superior. The goal is now to integrate those aspects. So can you see now, it's been 13,000 years since the fall of Atlantis. So this other story that the world works in these 13,000 year cycles of integration and disintegration. We've just been through from the fall of Atlantis to now has been a dark time, disintegration. So the light almost couldn't flourish. So you would have stood up and spoken the truth, but in the end the dark won. The dark has been winning for 13,000 years. We've just had to abide our time. But now the idea is that from 2012, as it were, we're moving into that phase again of 13,000 years of building, of integrating. So now we have an invitation to work on integration. For the different tribes of light workers, it will mean different things. There are different soul ages and different experiences. But for this one, whose story I've been telling now that goes through Atlantis, we are almost at the end of completion of. There's a sense of completion. You also know you're this. If you sense in yourself a sense of tiredness, weariness, and desire to be complete. It's like some of the ambition is burned away, and there's desire to finish. Yes. So we have in this lifetime the opportunity to be finished. How do you be finished with it? Let go of the crusades for good and evil. For our tribe, we are going to embody that Christ consciousness of presence, the now. Not all humanity has to embody that level of it. But for our tribe, the model is that in the pain, surrendering and being divine. That is the completion. If you can do that, you've ended the Atlantean story. So you've converted it to wisdom. So now we've completed what we came to do. Then you will have a choice about where next. You can come back and enjoy the next 13,000 years and be part of building the planet and being teachers of the new earth. You can also realize deep inside that you've done, you want to explore elsewhere. You see, why I wanted to talk about this is the karma. We had to stay because of the karma and wanting to complete it, wanting to complete the history of manipulation that we did. Thinking we were doing good. So we just want to complete that. The way to complete it is not to get caught up in manipulation. If you're seeing control in the news and you're fighting about who's controlling, forget it. You're getting caught up again in it. Don't. Because you'll just have to come back to complete that. Witness, fall into the witness. There but for the grace of God go I. Or we say, forgive them for they know not what they do. These are the sayings of the Christ that we can remind ourselves with. That's the energy of letting it go. We are just the presence, just to be present. and you're living from the heart. So you do what you're called to do, not what your mind tells you should do. What you're called, what do you feel like when you're still? What are you called to do or not do? Are you called to take action or not? You want to get to neutral ego and the third position, beyond good and evil. That's itself as a whole topic, but I think you might be able to see from this talk of how we've struggled with dualities and how the quest all along has been to bring them together. And so it doesn't help us to get too intertwined about men versus women and who's right and who's wrong, or Republicans and Democrats, and watch it from a bit of a distance. Feel it and know that you are that, both sides. And then the sanity comes in, and breathe, and you can breathe. You see, Jesus on the cross did not blame the Romans. He could have, if he wanted, he could have easily walked away from all that before he was put on the cross. He chose it to demonstrate. You don't have to engage with the Romans. You can watch from the side and just, there they are. I was once a Roman too. You know, they don't know what they're doing. Let them go. You'll know you have to do something if they come directly in your face. Then you'll take action, right? Otherwise you can let them go. These are not the droids you're looking for. You've got to have that Obi-Wan vibe. Just let it go by. It doesn't mean that you're not taking any action, but you're taking action from the heart, and it's not duality based. That makes sense. Okay, we'll bring it to an end there. Dear Lightworkers of this persuasion, meditate on your dark side. Combine it with the times when you were on the light side and were oppressed. So your oppression is evened out. The times you oppressed and the times you were oppressed. Let them even out. Let you become neutral. Let you go to that third position, the Christ consciousness of the presence. Rest there. Your work is done. Not much has to be done by this tribe. You're here just to broadcast and demonstrate a frequency. Also in this time of transition, it's not always that easy to stand up and be a public figure. Sometimes you're not meant to be a public figure. We've been there. Some of you are meant to be. But a lot of us is quiet. And next time, if you choose incarnation again in the next phase, then you'll go more into being a teacher. But if you're wondering why are you not the spiritual? Why are you not out there? Why are you not a teacher? Why not? Just let that go, because you're actually beyond a lot of that stuff. You're actually so beyond it that it's not even worth standing up as a teacher. Unless you're called to do it, you're beyond it. You look very normal on the outside, but inside you're not normal. You don't have to do anything more than you're called to do. A lot of us are called to speak fairly quiet, just broadcast a frequency to heal ourselves. The first thing is to heal yourself. Encounter your dark side, befriend it, move beyond the dark and the light, and just be that representative of the new earth. Even if you're quiet, even if you're doing it just in your home to 1 or 2 or 3 people, it's fine. This new era is only now being born. It's just like not even dawn yet. It's just like a faint glimmer of light. We're not meant to be running always yet in full power. We're still going through that eye of the needle of complete stripping away. Like on the cross. Like you're on the cross now, not meant to be anywhere else. Just undergoing the last falling away of this karmic path. And that is utter surrender to the present. Utter surrender and giving up all your power so that you can be guided by the power of the heart, which will lead you in ways that you cannot yet say. Does that make sense? Does it give you courage? If perhaps you're wondering why you're not doing what you should be doing, or you think you should, there's no model for you in the outside world. Let me tell you that. Let me offer that. There's very few models for you. So, a lot of the teachers you see up there are younger than you. You think, oh, they know so much, they're so amazing. Some are. Some are younger, but it's their time to speak. Take us back 13,000 years to Atlantis. Yeah, we were full of words. We were full of actions and importance. And we know where that led to. So now we are tending to keep quiet a little bit. But you don't want to keep too quiet, because then don't want to be oppressed quiet. You want to say, okay, you know what? We've had our lifetimes of being oppressed, of being burnt at the stake, and now this is the new dawn. I'm not up for that. I'm not going to be crucified again. Done with that. Done with all that shit. I'm dropping it all. I'm just here. If this is my life, even if the rest of my life I just spend looking at flowers, blessing the earth, being utterly simple, not teaching anything, just being frequency. My friends, you will have completed everything. You'll have completed that whole past. And then a new thing starts from there. Okay, I'll shut up now.